Have you ever thought that the pain you're going through right now might actually be a gift? Sounds strange, right? But what if that heartbreak, that failure, that breakdown, the one that left you crying on the floor or staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., wasn't the end of something, but the beginning? Most people try to run from pain. We bury it, distract ourselves with social media, binge watch shows, drink, scroll, and smile through the struggle. But deep down, we know it's still there. Quiet, heavy, waiting. What if I told you that in Buddhist wisdom, suffering isn't something to avoid, it's something to study, to lean into? Because hidden in the pain you don't want to feel is the version of you you've been looking for all along. Why do some people break under pressure while others seem to rise and glow from the ashes? What's the difference between suffering that crushes and suffering that transforms? And more importantly, what if your emotional discomfort isn't something to fix, but a portal to walk through? In today's video, we're going to explore exactly that. How emotional pain, when seen through the right lens, can become the key to your deepest inner growth. How Buddhist insights, combined with practical modern tools, can help you turn heartbreak into healing and discomfort into direction. So if you've ever felt lost, stuck, numb, or on the edge of giving up, this might just be the message you didn't know you needed. Let's dive in. Number 1, you can't control life, but you can control your lens. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met two people who went through the exact same situation, yet walked away with completely different outcomes? One felt broken. The other felt stronger. The event was the same, but the meaning they gave it changed everything. That's the power of your lens, the way you choose to see life. Here's the truth that most people don't want to hear. You can't control what life throws at you. You can't stop the rain, the losses, the betrayals, or the unexpected detours. But what you can control at every single moment is the story you tell yourself about it. In Buddhist teachings, this idea is woven deeply into the principle that, with our thoughts, we create the world. It's not about spiritual bypassing or pretending everything's okay. It's about recognizing that your inner world shapes your outer experience. And let's be honest, modern life can feel overwhelming. Deadlines, conflicts, bad news 24/7. It's easy to feel powerless. But what if the real power is learning how to meet reality, not as an enemy, but as a mirror that reflects back where your attachments live, where your opportunity to evolve begins? Try this. Think of one situation in your life right now that's bothering you. Now ask, what's one other way I could look at this? Maybe the delay is actually a divine pause. Maybe the rejection was protection. Maybe the ending was needed for a new beginning to take root. That shift in perception, that's your superpower. That's how you go from reactive to responsive, from victim to creator, from chaos to clarity. Because in the end, it's not about what happens. It's about who you become because of it. Number 2, real hope. Verse 8, motivational noise, how to rekindle true inner fire. Here's a question you might not hear often. Is what you're calling hope actually just noise? Think about it. In a world overflowing with positive quotes, daily affirmations, and you got this, Instagram posts, How do you know what's truly fueling you and what's just temporary hype? Let's be honest, not all motivation is real. Sometimes what we call hope is just a surge of inspiration that fades the moment things get hard. True hope, the kind that anchors your soul and carries you through the darkest nights, is something deeper. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's a quiet fire that refuses to go out, even when everything else falls apart. In Buddhist thinking, hope is not wishful thinking. It's rooted in clarity, not illusion. It's the understanding that while life is uncertain, your ability to grow from it is not. That kind of hope isn't dependent on circumstances going your way. It's a decision to rise again and again, no matter what. Many people in the West confuse motivation with direction. They get caught in cycles of chasing quick inspiration but never building real endurance. The result? Burnout, frustration, self-blame. But the truth is, hope isn't about how fired up you feel today. It's about what you're committed to showing up for, even on the days when everything feels heavy. If you've ever lost your sense of direction, it's not because you're weak. It's probably because the vision you were holding on to wasn't deep enough. Real hope isn't shaken by setbacks. It's born from them. It grows stronger through loss, through failure, through silence, and it becomes your inner compass. Not because life is easy, but because you know who you are becoming in the process. So the next time you feel lost, don't ask, where did my motivation go? Ask instead, what am I really hoping for? And is that hope rooted in truth or just noise? Number 3, the dance of light and shadow, embracing both positivity and pain. Have you ever felt guilty for not being happy all the time? Like no matter what you're going through, you're supposed to smile, stay high vibe, and push the pain aside because feeling low somehow means you're doing life wrong? If so, you're not alone, and you're not broken. We live in a culture that worships positivity. Everywhere you look, there's pressure to stay grateful, look on the bright side, or just think positive. But here's the truth. Forcing yourself to be happy doesn't make the pain go away. It just pushes it underground. And what's buried doesn't disappear. It festers. It leaks out in ways we don't expect through anxiety, burnout, numbness, or even physical illness. Buddhist wisdom offers a radically honest alternative. Don't reject your suffering. Make peace with it. The Buddha taught that suffering is not only inevitable, it's instructive. Pain isn't something to escape. It's a part of the human experience, just like joy. They're not opposites. They're dance partners. One gives depth to the other. If you only chase the light and resist the shadow, you live a half-life. Real wholeness isn't about staying on one end of the spectrum. It's about learning to stand in the middle, fully present with both. That's where emotional freedom begins. You don't have to pretend you're okay. You just have to stay awake in the discomfort long enough to hear what it's really saying. Think about nature. There's no sunrise without night, no blooming without decay, no healing without the wound. So what if your pain isn't a problem to fix, but a message to listen to? What if your sadness is your heart asking to be held, not fixed? When you stop fighting your darker moments and start dancing with them, something incredible happens. They stop controlling you. And that's where true peace begins, not from always feeling good, but from no longer being afraid when you don't. Number 4, don't search for purpose, create it. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if your life never came with a purpose because it's waiting for you to write one? So many of us grow up believing that purpose is something we're supposed to find, as if it's hiding somewhere out there, at the end of a perfect career path, in a soulmate relationship, or after some grand mystical revelation. But here's the problem with that mindset. It keeps you stuck in waiting mode, always searching, never arriving. In the West, this search for purpose has become a pressure-dilled quest, loaded with comparison and self-doubt. You scroll through social media and see people who seem to have it all figured out. Their lives look so aligned, so meaningful, and you start to wonder, why don't I feel that way? What's wrong with me? But from a Buddhist perspective, purpose isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you live into, moment by moment. It's not a fixed destination. It's a process of conscious creation. You don't find your purpose like a lost set of keys. You craft it like a piece of art, shaped by your values, your actions, and your presence. Try this. Instead of asking, "What's my purpose?" ask, "How can I bring purpose into what I'm already doing?" Maybe it's how you treat people at work. Maybe it's the way you show up for your family. Maybe it's how you listen, how you love, how you grow. Purpose doesn't always look grand. Sometimes it looks like consistency. Sometimes it looks like compassion. And here's the truth that might just set you free. You don't need to find something big to be enough. You just need to choose something meaningful and then show up for it, again and again, even if it's small, especially if it's small. So the next time you feel lost, don't wait for a lightning bolt of clarity to strike. Take one step, choose one intention, and begin living as if your life already matters. Because it does. Number 5, building healthy relationships. From emotional resonance to mutual flow. Here's a question that might hit closer than you expect. Are your relationships feeding your soul or silently draining it? Most people assume a relationship is healthy if there's no drama or visible conflict. But a peaceful surface doesn't always mean there's true connection underneath. In reality, some of the most emotionally exhausting relationships are the quietest ones, the ones where you're always giving, always hoping, always trying, but never really receiving. In Buddhist philosophy, relationship isn't just about attachment or compatibility, it's about resonance. A shared emotional frequency that allows two beings to truly meet, not just mentally, not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, soulfully. And once that resonance is present, the next essential piece is flow, a mutual exchange of presence, care, attention, and energy. Think of it like breath. Inhale and exhale. Give and receive. If you're always exhaling, always showing up, always giving without being met, eventually you'll run out of air. And the same is true for relationships. Without two ways flow, even the most perfect match becomes one-sided and unsustainable. Here in the West, we're often taught to measure relationships by appearances, status, attraction, shared interests. But deeper connection doesn't come from shared Spotify playlists or matching vacation pics. It comes from shared emotional truth. It comes from being safe enough to be seen, from listening without fixing, from being present without performing. So here's a real check-in. In your closest relationship, is there resonance? Do you feel emotionally safe and understood? And just as important, is there flow? Does energy move both ways? Or are you stuck in a loop of giving while waiting for something in return? Healthy relationships aren't perfect. They're honest, they're dynamic, they breathe, and they're built not just on what you feel, but on how you mutually show up for each other over time. Because in the end, connection is not about having someone. It's about building something real together. Number 6, gratitude as a spiritual practice. Seeing through the lens of cause and effect. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly paused, not just to say thank you, but to feel it? To let the weight of everything that brought you here sink in. Not just the good, but the hard, the humbling, the unseen. Gratitude in our culture is often reduced to a polite gesture, a quick thanks before moving on with our day. But in spiritual practice, especially through a Buddhist lens, gratitude is not a reaction, it's a way of seeing. It's a lens that reveals how deeply interconnected everything in your life truly is. That nothing you have, experience, or are happened in isolation. This is where the principle of cause and effect, or karma, comes into focus. Everything you are today is the result of someone or something that came before. Your ability to speak, to think, to walk, to love, it didn't start with you. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, even the strangers who built the road you drive on, they are all part of your becoming. Every small action, seen or unseen, and you are the result. When you begin to live with that kind of awareness, gratitude becomes more than just a list in a journal. It becomes your posture in life. You stop seeing yourself as a self-made island, and you start recognizing the invisible web that holds you. Even the painful events become part of the gratitude, because they too shaped your strength, your empathy, your growth. Here's a powerful exercise. Think of one thing you're proud of in your life right now. Then trace it backward. Who helped you get there? What had to happen, both pleasant and painful, for that moment to exist? You'll start to realize your story is never just yours. It's always a mosaic of relationships, events, and choices, woven together through time. And the more clearly you see this, the more your heart opens. Gratitude softens judgment, dissolves entitlement, and replaces resentment with reverence. It brings you back to a truth we so often forget. We're not separate. We're part of something infinitely larger than ourselves. Gratitude isn't just a feeling. It's spiritual clarity. Number 7, mastering the mind, from mental slavery to inner freedom. Here's something most people don't realize until it's too late. Your mind is either your greatest ally or your quietest prison. Think about it. How many times have you replayed a painful memory over and over in your head, or created an entire story of fear, anxiety, or failure before anything even happened? We often talk about the world being chaotic, unpredictable, overwhelming. But what if the real storm is happening inside our own minds? In Buddhist philosophy, the mind is like a wild horse. If left untamed, it drags you wherever it pleases, into anger, fear, doubt, insecurity. But when trained, that same mind becomes a tool of profound clarity and freedom. The difference isn't what's happening around you, it's who's in charge within you. Here in the West, we're taught to constantly feed the mind, more content, more stimulation, more thinking. But rarely are we taught to observe it, to step back and ask, is this thought even true? Is this emotion permanent? Do I have to believe everything my mind is telling me right now? And that's where inner freedom begins, not by escaping the mind, but by no longer being enslaved by it. Mastery of the mind doesn't mean you never have negative thoughts. It means you're no longer run by them. You become the watcher, the stillness behind the storm. And from that stillness, you gain the space to respond rather than react, to live with intention instead of impulse. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a path. But every moment you spend in awareness, every breath you take with mindfulness, is a step toward reclaiming your inner authority. You stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose. So ask yourself, who is really in control right now? Your highest self or your most anxious thought? Because once you stop letting your mind master you, you begin to discover who you truly are beneath the noise. Number 8, structure, discipline, and the power of inner integrity. Let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable. When no one's watching, do you still keep your word to yourself? It's easy to show up when there's pressure, praise, or accountability from the outside. But the real question, the one that shapes your character, is whether you can keep showing up when it's just you, your intention, and the silence. In our fast-moving, convenience-driven culture, discipline is often misunderstood. We think it's rigid, harsh, something we force ourselves into, like a punishment for not being naturally motivated. But true discipline, in the Buddhist and spiritual sense, isn't about pressure. It's about inner integrity, the quiet promise you make to yourself, and the choice to honor it again and again. Structure, then, becomes a sacred container, not a prison, but a path. It's the framework that holds you when motivation fades. Because let's face it, motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. But discipline, that steady rhythm of action, becomes the heartbeat of transformation. When you meditate, even on the days you don't feel like it. When you breathe through discomfort instead of reacting. When you choose presence over distraction, kindness over impulse. That's discipline in action. That's spiritual strength. And no, it doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean never slipping. It means being willing to begin again, over and over, with compassion, not ego. That's how structure supports your growth, and how discipline becomes a form of self-love. The modern world sells us on quick hacks and dopamine hits, but what you build through real inner discipline, that lasts. That's where freedom lives. Not in doing whatever you want, but in becoming the kind of person who can be trusted by your own soul. So next time you're tempted to quit on yourself, pause and ask, what would it feel like to keep my word, not for anyone else, but for me? Because that's where true power lives. Not in how loud you are, but in how deeply you can trust yourself. Number 9, returning to self. How retreat and stillness unlock true clarity. When was the last time you sat in complete silence? Not scrolling, not working, not planning, just being with yourself. It might sound simple, even easy, but for many of us, silence is the most confronting space to enter, because in the stillness there are no distractions, only you, your thoughts, your fears, and the truth you've been too busy to face. But here's the thing. Clarity doesn't shout over the noise of the world. It whispers in the quiet. And if we never make space for that quiet, we miss the most honest parts of ourselves. In the Buddhist tradition, the act of retreat, stepping away from the external to return inward, is not an escape from life, but a return to what is real. Whether it's a formal retreat in the mountains or simply turning off your phone for one intentional hour, it's in these moments of solitude that the dust of daily life begins to settle. And in that settling, clarity emerges. The modern world constantly tells you to do more, be more, produce more, but the soul often speaks in stillness. When we slow down, we remember we are not our roles, our productivity, or our problems. We are presence itself, vast, aware, whole. You don't need to disappear into a monastery to find yourself. You can retreat right where you are, a quiet walk in nature, a few deep breaths before bed, a weekend without your to-do list. These small pauses are sacred. They're how you return to your center, because sometimes the most profound thing you can do is nothing at all. Not to avoid life, but to finally hear it, to finally hear you. So ask yourself gently, when will I stop running and finally come home to myself? If you've made it this far, take a moment and breathe. Not for me, not for the algorithm, but for you. For that quiet part inside that's been listening this whole time, maybe even whispering, this is what I've been needing. The truth is, mastering your mind, embracing your pain, building your inner structure, none of this is easy, but it's possible. And more than that, it's worth it. Because the life you're seeking isn't found in the noise. It's found in presence, in patience, in you. So here's your next step. If this video stirred something inside you, if even one line made you pause and think, don't let that awareness fade. Keep it alive. Hit that like button to remind yourself, this mattered. Leave a comment below, share your story, your struggle, or even just one line that stayed with you. You never know who else might need to read it. And if you feel called to keep walking this path of mindfulness, of growth, of awakening, subscribe and join this community. You don't have to walk alone. Remember, your journey inward is the most powerful journey you will ever take, and I'm honored to walk beside you. Until next time, stay present, stay grounded, and above all, stay true to you.